Being a mom of a child with additional needs, oh boy, it can be a struggle, but it has its highs and lows. And I just decided to share my journey. One of the things I've realized really is the when you have a child with additional needs, you as a parent, you forget yourself because your priority is to make sure they're safe, they're looked after well, and they're cared for well, and boy oh boy, and that they get all the necessary services they need. So in that journey, your goal is to make sure your child is well looked after. So over the years, my son is 12 years old. He'll be 13 this year, 2026. And when I look back on the journey, I just realize how I left myself behind. I guess it's nature's way of just making you hyper focus on your child because you look at them as being vulnerable. But my own journey, when I look back on the beginning, I remember in the beginning, so I think he was about 14-month old when I noticed something wasn't right, really. So up to that time, he hit all the milestones, and um, he was feeding well. He crawled. He held his head. All the necessarily or the expected milestones. He was bubbling away, mama, dada. And then, boom, around 14 months, I remember so vividly. I was actually nursing him, I was breastfeeding him, and he wasn't looking at me, which was very odd. He just wasn't looking at me, and something deep inside of me just said, what's going on? What is going on? Why is not looking? So I mean, that gut feeling. I had that feeling that something is not right. So I kind of ignored it a bit, but obviously it's here in my face every time I'm breastfeeding him. He's not looking, and then I notice certain things. Then that he'll be in his own little world, not interacting with his two older brothers. And he just stopped babbling. He stopped saying dada mama, and he was in his own little bubble. And the instinct was, okay, now what's the next step? And I remember my husband being like, no, he's fine, you're overthinking. And so of course, I started all the different things that you do as a parent. Okay, how do we get on top of this? What do I do? So where I live, we are very fortunate. We have services to link or to kind of have our kids, when your child has additional needs, assessed and all of that. So naturally, the first step was, okay, we need to do something. And we went through the whole assessment. I was fortunate in that I could do it through the public service. But I knew the processes anyway, because I work in disability myself. So I remember just going through that process. And again, the focus was, how do I fix this child? Not necessarily fix, how do I get to know what's going on so that I can do everything as a parent to make sure that he either improve or he is a happy child. But it was more a fixed mode, if I'm being honest. So we kind of, I was one was kind of taking the lead, because I think my husband, because I know the system, and I think my husband was going through his journey, and I think at the time he was at a phase where, they talk about stages of grief. He was kind of, those phase stages where it's the denial. No, it's not happening. My child is fine. Mom is overreacting. But he was supportive with the whole assessment. And I remember so the one of the first steps in the assessment is there's this parental questionnaire you complete. So I remember completing it. So you meet with the assessment officer and you do the parental questionnaire. And I just remember just struggling to, it really asks about the things that your child can do. And I remember struggling completing it. And because it really focuses on things that you don't want to hear as a parent, or maybe you don't want to deal with. And again, that ties in with that process of grief, and a bit of, you are in denial yourself as a parent. And so fine, went through that. But I remember when everything was confirmed, so we went through that, and then the assessment was done. And when I went with my husband, I remember there was about 3 professionals, clinicians, I think psychology, OT, and speech and language, occupational therapy. And just I remember that feeling of, so he was with the psychologist in one room, and then me and my husband and the speech and language were sitting in the other room, those one-way see-through kind of observation rooms, sitting there and then watching the psychologist doing different things with him. And then that feeling like, oh my God, it's like he's an animal in a zoo being observed, and just being a bit upset about it. And then after the psychologist, the speech and language joined in. It was the two of them. It was like an experiment. And I remember feeling, oh, my poor baby, how did we get here? But yeah, so that happened. And we had to then, obviously they had to do the reports and everything. And I remember, so when they kind of confirmed what I already suspected, that something is not, it's amiss, something is happening. And so when they told us that he actually has global developmental delay with features of autism, I think at this stage he was about 2.5. And I remember thinking, okay, what's next? What's next? What can we do? Again, I work in disabilities as a social worker, so I would have had resources and different things. So all it's more than words. Communication is more than words. So having resources around trying to bring his speech along, because he's a non-speaker, as they call it these days. He's non-verbal. And he still is, but obviously at the time it was just the beginning of the journey. And yeah, and it was so interesting the way the focus for me was, okay, what's the next step, and doing everything. I mean, everything. Um, and I think it's more that you get into the action mode, and then there's this little thing at the back of your head. He's fixable. He'll be fine. He's gonna be okay. He's gonna talk. He's gonna, And I think it's that the denial piece that actually he has this. It mightn't be fixable, but you don't think like that. I don't think it's healthy to think beyond what's in front of you. Yeah, and then during that period, I remember I always had this little thing where I'd have moments where I would just cry. I would just cry. And I think, again, that's kind of part of grief. It's maybe the realization, and I would, most of the time, I'd try and not get upset in front of people. I don't know what that was. But yeah, I mean, the early stages, there was a lot of emotions, but there was a lot of upset. I remember when one of the days after I went to meet with the assessment of need officer and getting on the bus, oh my God, I cried. I cried and I couldn't stop myself. And it's a journey. The grief is immense, and I think it has to do with you had this bundle of joy of a child, of a baby, and the dreams at the future, the you when a baby is born, or when you decide to have a baby, there's always this assumption, which is nature's way, that your child will be okay. They won't have needs. I don't think parents of children with additional needs ever think, oh, my child might. The dream is your child will be okay. They'll be so called normal. So those were the kind of early stages. He's 12 now, so the journey is very interesting. It's very interesting. But as I said earlier, the hardest is when it's confirmed, and how it can kind of spin your world around and change everything about your family. Yeah, I'll continue to share more, and I hope this for parents of children with additional needs, as we call them, neurodivergent, autism, ADHD, and all the different needs that are out there, as we call them, additional needs. Sometimes for me, it's the sharing of my experience, and for the parents who are on this journey, or to know it is not easy, but it does have its moments of high moments where you are elated, you are so happy, you look at your child and you kind of you are proud of them, and you are glad they chose you as a parent. But boy, there's many phases to it. So for now, that's what I'll share, and I'll continue to share my experiences of having a child with additional needs. Take care.